Welcome back to the channel. Some focus on Etihad Airways and the Airbus A380 as alongside aircraft delays. Firstly, in a commitment to the world's largest passenger plane, Etihad Airways will increase its Airbus A380 operation. Confirmed by a reputable aviation analyst, the Abu Dhabi-based carrier plans to increase its fleet of A380s from the current figure of 7 upwards to 9 by 2027. The increase will be thanks to the expected return to service of A6-APC in June 2026, with A6-APB joining the fleet in January 2027, following APA being parted out. A decision to increase the A380's flying hours represents a significant shift in the airline's dealings with the world's largest passenger plane, as the jet had previously seemed to have flown its last flight, with a retirement imminent. Additionally, the return of more A380s comes following previous plans that would have seen just 6 of the type return to service. An adjustment in the strategy for the jet's usage has resulted in more of the type returning from long-term storage. With the latest announcement, it means that the world's largest passenger plane is no longer seen as a mere short-term solution to alleviating pressures on the business, but rather as a medium to long-term solution. Permitting no further changes, Etihad Airways will fly the A380 at least through to the early stages of the 2030s, as confirmed by the CEO of the carrier. This, of course, is subject to change. Its lifespan could either be extended or shortened dependent on various factors, but as of right now, the plane is going to be sticking around. Etihad Airways recently commenced A380 flying to Toronto in Canada for the very first time. It highlights the continued expansion of the 380's operations across the international network, showcasing the capabilities to serve specific markets that the airline would probably argue are still to this day game-changing. A decision to bring back the A380 does, like I said, represent a shift from what they had once planned, and you'd say a complete 180 turn. The Etihad A380 fleet was delivered between 2014 and 2017. Therefore, the plane is really not showing any signs of age. When the global pandemic struck at the beginning of 2020, Etihad Airways was compelled to make changes to its daily operations to ensure its survival and to make sure it could mitigate some of the hardships. What did not favour Etihad Airways over some of its Middle Eastern neighbours was its already very poor financial position, something it was still trying to navigate when the pandemic hit. And just years before the pandemic, Etihad was losing billions per annum, and those financial struggles prompted them to undertake a whole turnaround initiative, which resulted in the axing of many fleet types, a reduction in growth, and the cutting of routes, among other measures. When demand dropped, planes like the A380 would naturally come under scrutiny. While the high-capacity nature of the jet benefited Abu Dhabi, opportunities existed outside of this type that from internal reviews would help the turnaround progress. The A380 was hence parked, but unlike other airlines that wanted the jet to return to service at some point, Etihad Airways went one step further and confirmed what was at the time the permanent retirement. But after much deliberation, and in response to an internal requirement to meet emerging capacity across destinations worldwide, but particularly focusing in on London, Etihad Airways made a bold choice. In late 2022, they reintroduced the 380. At the time, there was a strict focus on only serving London Heathrow with the aircraft from their home base of Abu Dhabi, with just 4 units to return to service. With surging demand across the business and London Heathrow one of its most important airports, alongside new delivery delays, the return of the 380 was cleared and the plane began coming back from long-term storage. However, since 2022, demand has only continued to increase across many global markets, and the 380's presence is now seen in not just London, but at more of your international worldwide ports. The high-capacity nature, despite, yes, the economic flaws that are there, has greatly benefited Etihad, and upon delivery, the airline knew it had made a massive investment in that onboard product, making the plane not just their flagship, but hopefully a game-changer for travel in and out of the Middle East. Now, with more A380s expected to return to service in the coming years, it'll ensure the program lasts longer, certainly, than what was expected 5 years years ago, and means that many of your high-profile international cities will continue to take on the jet. Over to the next story, where Wizz Air has confirmed further delays in the delivery of new commercial aircraft from Airbus. The jets, which are meant to power the renewal of the business, allowing for growth to take place across the company, have received a confirmed delay, although onlookers would have sensed this. Wizz Air's sizable order for 280 aircraft, which was scheduled to be delivered between now and 2030, will be pushed back for a further year, initially through 2031. However, the budget European carrier is also very much making plans to expect a further year's delay, which would see deliveries continue into 2032, therefore that's 2 additional years on top of what was planned. The delays naturally impacting their ability to renew and their continued bid towards transition for the next generation, while casting further doubt about the ability for them to grow on the initially intended rate. Wizz Air, in its quarterly performance, for example, stated that overall growth rate over the next 2 to 3 years is expected to be halved from what forecasting had previously been. They hope to achieve a growth of 20%. That's now likely to be around the 10 to 12% figure due to a massive amount of changing circumstances. With the carrier departing the Middle East due to struggles there, it's been a challenging period, and now they're also withdrawing their full year guidance. Only from fiscal 2027 do they expect costs to begin improving. That's going to be really aided by the retirement of the A320ceo model, that is the older current engine option, which has seen its own retirement delayed due to the inability to source replacement planes on time. So really, the retirement of the older A320 model is directly tied in with the ability to grow capacity, which has been hindered by many grounded planes. You see how this is all interconnected, and put simply, if Wizz Air cannot reactivate most of its Airbus planes on the ground, let alone receive them on time, while the retirement of the older aircraft at the speed desired will not be possible, this will impact their financial position alongside growth. That'll conclude today's industry recap. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry news.